What if World War III almost started without explosions, speeches, or headlines? No mushroom cloud, no emergency broadcast, just a quiet decision, made behind closed doors, that nearly pushed the world into something it couldn't undo. This isn't ancient history. This isn't the Cold War. This is modern, recent, and far closer to today than most people realize. The most dangerous military operations are never the loud ones. They don't arrive with declarations or dramatic countdowns that feel ripped from a movie trailer. They arrive quietly, disguised as limited actions and necessary precautions. The kind of language designed to sound boring on purpose. When governments believe a situation could spiral out of control, they don't raise their voices. They lower them. They stop shouting and start whispering, because whispers don't attract attention. That's exactly how this operation begins, not with panic or chaos, but with calm that feels a little too controlled to be comforting. By the mid-2020s, tensions between the United States and Iran exist in a strange, unsettling limbo. There is no official war, no invasion, no single moment you can point to and say, that's when everything broke. Instead, pressure stacks on top of pressure, like weight added slowly until something snaps. Sanctions pile up. Warnings repeat themselves until they sound routine. Diplomatic language grows colder while pretending to remain polite, smiling through clenched teeth. Beneath that surface, military planners are running the same simulations again and again, because Iran's nuclear program keeps inching closer to a line nobody wants to publicly admit exists. This isn't about secrecy anymore. Everyone knows where the facilities are. Satellites hover overhead like security cameras that never blink and never forget. Intelligence agencies map enrichment timelines the way meteorologists track hurricanes, watching not just where things are, but where they'll be if nothing changes. The real argument inside Washington isn't whether Iran can move closer to a weapon, because that question is already answered. It's how long the United States can afford to keep watching before watching itself becomes the most dangerous option on the table. Sanctions are supposed to slow progress, but in practice they behave more like friction than brakes. They make movement harder, not impossible, and they punish civilians long before they change strategic calculations. Iran adapts. Trade reroutes through new channels. Domestic politics harden instead of softening, turning pressure into defiance. After years of this cycle, officials are forced to confront an uncomfortable truth they rarely say out loud. Sanctions buy time, but time always runs out, and nuclear timelines don't pause out of courtesy or diplomacy. That's when the conversation shifts, quietly and without ceremony, from diplomacy to deterrence, and from deterrence to action. Not a war, at least not officially. Not an invasion with troops and flags. Something smaller, cleaner. A strike designed to look contained enough to avoid panic. On paper, it sounds reasonable, almost elegant. In reality, it's like trying to defuse a bomb while convincing everyone in the room that you're definitely not holding a bomb. What analysts often refer to as Operation Midnight Hammer isn't a name stamped on a public document or announced from a podium. It's a shorthand, a label used behind closed doors to describe a tightly planned strike concept aimed at Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The targets aren't cities or civilians because that would be undeniable war. They're systems, power supplies, control nodes, cooling mechanisms, the unglamorous parts of a nuclear program that quietly keep everything running. The idea is simple and terrifying at the same time. Disrupt the machine without smashing the building. Think of it like pulling the fuse from an engine instead of crashing the car at full speed. The goal isn't spectacle or shock value. It's interruption, delay, a forced pause long enough to change the strategic equation and reset the clock. US planners believe that speed and precision can control escalation, that clean lines stay clean. History, unfortunately, has never been impressed by confidence, especially when that confidence comes with explosives. Because once the first strike happens, control becomes theoretical. Iran doesn't just see damage on a map. It sees intent written between the craters. Israel shifts its posture almost immediately, reading the moment as fragile and dangerous. US naval assets increase readiness, because oceans don't forgive hesitation. Missile defense systems across the region tighten their grip, waiting for something they hope never comes. Everyone starts asking the same question at the same time, and nobody likes the possible answers. Is this a warning? Or is this the opening scene of something much larger? This is how wars begin without anyone meaning to start them. Not through grand speeches or bold strategy, but through synchronized fear spreading faster than facts. Russia and China don't step in directly, but they watch closely, measuring every move. Not out of sympathy, and certainly not out of morality, but out of calculation. If the United States proves it can strike nuclear infrastructure without triggering total war, that precedent doesn't stay confined to one region. Precedents travel, and they don't ask permission. Iran's response doesn't come immediately, and that delay alarms analysts more than a quick retaliation ever would. Fast reactions are emotional and predictable. Slow reactions are deliberate and strategic. Cyber activity increases quietly. Proxy groups shift into position without announcements. Shipping routes begin to feel less safe even though nothing visibly changes. Energy markets react before the public understands why prices are moving. This isn't chaos. It's calibrated pressure, designed to remind everyone that limited wars have a long history of refusing to stay limited. Behind the scenes, military systems begin interacting faster than human judgment can comfortably manage. Radar sweeps overlap in crowded skies. Aircraft scramble in response to signals that might mean everything or nothing. Warning systems process floods of data at a pace that leaves little room for hesitation or doubt. At one point, activity patterns resemble the early stages of a much larger conflict, not because one exists, but because preparation itself can look indistinguishable from aggression when viewed through a screen. This is the most dangerous moment, and almost nobody outside secure rooms ever sees it. The moment when misinterpretation becomes more dangerous than attack itself. Nuclear doctrines don't wait for perfect clarity or polite confirmation. They react to perceived threat, because hesitation is treated as weakness. And once those systems begin cycling through response options, the margin for error collapses from minutes to seconds, and seconds are not much time to rethink the future of the world. What prevents catastrophe isn't heroism or luck or some movie-style last-second save. It's restraint mixed with exhaustion. Quiet messages move through back channels that never appear in headlines. Warnings are exchanged in language deliberately chosen to avoid pride or provocation. Red lines are clarified without press conferences or leaks. Proxy actors are told to pause. Naval forces reposition without explanation. Everyone takes a step back, pretending they were never that close to the edge. Publicly, almost nothing happens, and that's what makes it unsettling. There are no emergency speeches, no dramatic admissions, no official acknowledgement of how close things came to unraveling. The story fades behind other headlines, replaced by the next crisis in line. But inside military and intelligence communities, the lesson is sharp and unforgettable. This wasn't almost a planned war. It was almost an accidental one, driven by systems doing exactly what they were designed to do, faster than humans could slow them down. This is what makes modern conflict more dangerous than the Cold War ever was. Back then, enemies were defined and red lines were understood, even if they were terrifying. Today, there are more actors, more proxies, more gray zones where responsibility blurs. Everyone believes they're acting responsibly. Everyone believes escalation can be managed with precision. And that shared belief is precisely what makes the entire system unstable. This operation doesn't nearly start World War III because it's reckless or poorly planned. It nearly does because modern warfare relies on precision, and precision leaves no room for misunderstanding. One delayed signal, one misread action, one system responding exactly as programmed at the worst possible moment. That's all it takes to turn a limited action into a global disaster. The real danger today isn't nuclear weapons, but the belief that humans can perfectly control the systems around them. History shows that major conflicts don't start with dramatic warnings, they emerge quietly from routine decisions, false confidence, and near misses that almost go unnoticed. If you want more videos that break down how power actually works behind closed doors, like and subscribe because the most important moments in history are usually the ones that almost happen.